bring in Maura Gillespie, Blue Stack Strategies founder. Maura, what do you think of the president sending in the National Guard? A lot of his critics are saying, hey, they weren't even requested by the mayor or the governor, and you really shouldn't be superseding their needs or their requests. What do you say?
You know, you can make these arguments about, whether or not you think that that was appropriate or not. But at the end of the day, the right to protest is a bedrock of democratic societies, and it's covered by our First Amendment right. What's not covered is violent protest, and attacking law enforcement is a felony, a violent one at that. And we should be looking to our leaders to prioritize public safety and to maintain order. And when the line gets crossed and safety is no longer of the whether it's Newsom or whoever they're concerned, then yes, we need people to step in and we need leadership here. And, I think that that's what's so frustrating at these moments where you're watching people just because you liked or didn't like what the protest was happening or you supported the protest, but, you decide to drag your feet. Well, no, attacking law enforcement in any capacity, whether that was here in LA during the George Floyd riots in 2020 or on January 6th, should be condemned, and we should not be tolerating it. And it should be considered a felony. And so I do think that you can debate all you want about whether or not Donald Trump should have done what he did as far as bringing in the National Guard, but prioritizing public safety is what the American people voted for in 2024. They wanted safety and security.
A lot of people who are critical of the president's move here suggest that, the people being arrested are simply workers who want better lives for their families, better jobs, better incomes. Tom Homan, who we heard from a moment ago, the president's border czar, sees it quite differently. Here's what he had to say.
They arrested a lot of bad people yesterday and today. They arrested child sex offenders. They arrested people convicted of robbery. They arrested public safety, not only significant public safety threats, but national security threats. They arrested gang members. We're making Los Angeles safer. And Mayor Bass ought to be thanking us for making her city safer.
But it doesn't seem, Maura, that Mayor Bass wants to thank the Department of Homeland Security or the National Guard.
And that's sort of the problem, too, when you cherry pick, right, as far as what stories you're going to tell. And I think that that's both Mayor Bass is doing, but so is Tom Homan, because there are stories that we have heard, where children are being detained in schools and that people are being set up as far as going in to go check on their immigration status, their status here in the country, and then ICE agents are outside of the courts ready to arrest them and detain them, sometimes making mistakes where U.S. citizens are detained and deported. And so by highlighting those stories where they are taking, I think the majority of this country wants to see illegal criminals deported. I think where you have problems is we're seeing in different communities that people are stepping up saying, this isn't what I voted for. I didn't want my neighbor or my fellow churchgoer to be deported. They're part of our community. And so how do you navigate that? I think just being transparent and honest and telling both sides of the story here and making a commitment to the American people that you're going to do due process, you're going to, fix the mistakes and be transparent with us about what's happening. That would go a long way. But for some reason, leadership just seems to just want to cherry pick. And I do think it's very frustrating when common sense should be the prevail. Over the last couple of months, the president's detractors have been demanding the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man who was apparently wrongly deported to El Salvador. Well, he is back in the United States now. Michael McCall, a congressman from Texas, talks about his case. Listen.
Precisely the case that Donald Trump ran on, that got him a mandate from the American people. They're tired of seeing this. And what I'm amazed at, and I saw it at our hearing with Secretary Noem, is seeing the Democrats hold Mr. Garcia up as if he's some golden boy poster child that they all rally behind when he's in fact related to MS-13, a trafficker. He beats his wife. I mean, it's hardly a model for the Democratic Party. I think they're making a terrible mistake politically, and we saw that play out in the last election.
What do you think? Have Democrats invested too much of their political capital, I guess, behind this guy?
I think in a lot of ways, yes, because they were so eager to get a win and so eager to call out what they thought was an abuse of power by the Trump administration. Now, granted, the Trump administration admitted to making a mistake here by sending him to El Salvador when the judge explicitly said, do not send him to El Salvador. But if their argument was that they want to due process, which is a fair argument to make, then they could have just focused on that. Instead, they went down to El Salvador. You saw that happen where they wanted to get a photo op and become, this thing that didn't need to happen, and they've overstepped and now they have to backpedal. That's not really a winning message for them. Again, because of what happened in 2024, when the majority of the country wants to see illegal immigrants that are here illegally, that have committed violent crimes, deported. That we can all get behind. Celebrating someone because you think it's going to score you a political win, I think that falls flat with most people. Yeah,
we're going to be watching that case in Nashville as he is prosecuted as a human trafficker and prosecuted for other crimes. Obviously, we'll see what happens to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Maura Gillespie, thank you.